Or vibrate your phone. Hey, vibrators. The agenda for today, very simple. Our business part of our meeting. Start with a financial report, give you an update on membership. We'll cover what we call Computer Club Matters. Ralph will have a few words about classes. We have some community matters to talk about, and then our feature presentation. Financially, the treasurer's report. We're in pretty good shape. We've got $30,000 in the bank. Yeah. 0 outstanding checks at the moment. This is as of the 26th of August. 126 in petty cash. $100 waiting for deposit. Total cash, as you can see, $30,574.36. Now we went to a 3-year renewal program, and we have now money in the bank, what we're calling deferred income for the next 2 years, $31.30 per year. And we have a capital reserve fund of $15,000, and our unallocated available cash. Now this is an important number to remember, of $91.88 and change. And it's important because later we'll get into our expense budget for the fiscal year, and you'll see we have more money and income than we're planning on spending, so we're in good shape. Our equipment inventory, which is all of the computers in the lab, and the other things like printers and scanners and slide copiers and video to see DVD recorders, is in almost $93,000. Your donations for the coffee and donuts, we in turn pass along to the Grafton Food Pantry. And you can see so far this year with 2 meetings in person, $239,000 we've donated to them. Thank you very much. 239.00. Hey, I've only had a half a cup of coffee. Give me a break. Our membership, as of the end of August, is down a little bit from previous years. We're only at 1,349. We've been as high as 15,000, right? 1,500. Those mimosas are good. And just curious, how many of you that are here now are not yet members of the club? Can I just show of hands? Wow, 1? Terrific, thank you. Computer Club Matters are scheduled for the balance of this year. We meet here on the 2nd Thursday of the month, and for October it's the 14th, December the 9th. We have one exception. In November, we are meeting here on the 1st Thursday. November 11th, there's a veterans group that will be in here. As normal, we have coffee and donuts at 8:30. And we try and start the meeting promptly at 9. The computer lab hours currently are Monday and Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. to noon. Remember your passwords and your masks, please. The Sun City Photography group meets the first Wednesday, and the Apple group meets on the first Tuesdays. This is important. There's a tech alert. Time to upgrade your Windows. Bring your computer to the lab, and we'll help you upgrade to Windows 10. Microsoft has, as it says, has announced Windows 11 coming out October the 5th. And they've also hinted, like they're going to take a page from the Apple playbook, that Windows 11 may not work on older computers. They want to sell more computers. Due to really limitations by the CPU and the RAM found in the older laptops and older Windows computers. Next, we're going to get into the other side of the financials with our budget. All charter clubs are required to submit budgets, and your board has prepared the following. And at the end, hopefully you'll remember to ask for a motion. Dave, where are you? I'm here. Okay. I've already got him prepped. Ask for a motion to approve the budget. And I'll try and make it painless. First off, we have a category we call communications. Our brochures and our business cards, those are items we hand out like at the Charter Club Expo and at new resident meetings, new resident orientations. What we have are out of date. They contain hours of the lab that we do not support today. We may support again in the future, but there's a point where we need to get them reprinted. Education, this is for in-lab use. It's $100 in there mainly as a placeholder, so we have money in the budget if we need something to support the education program. Hardware, we have, like everyone else, ancient hardware. And we need to replace our laser printer, our inkjet printer. We're going to get a network drive, and this $500 expense is going to offset, or I should say replace, an expense for a piece of software that we were leasing, if you will. And this will help us keep the hard drives of the computers in the lab clean. As a side note, please don't save stuff on the computers in the lab, because we erase it every day. Yeah, we need a little HDMI to USB connector to help with the projector in the lab. We have in the budget AV equipment and Apple hardware if needed. So those $100 in each line may never be spent, but they're in there because we anticipate perhaps doing something. Lab support area, we have a need to buy some tools, new tools that are necessary to be able to open up the newer laptops. Require plastic tools instead of metal, so we're going to spend $50 there for that. And lab tech classes, we have new technicians in the lab, and John Sterling, our lab manager, has some education programs that he's purchased for use to help educate our new techs as to how to be more of an assist to you when you come to the lab. So that's the $150 there. And meeting expense, yes, we have to buy the coffee and donuts. And that's an annual number, the $14.50. That's not per month. Now, if all of our members showed up, all 1,349, we might need more money in the budget. Network in the lab, that's $300 is in case we need a new Wi-Fi router or other implements, other devices in the lab to help us function better. Office supplies, everybody needs cartridges for their printers and paper for their printers, and these amounts should cover us well for the year. Software, Quicken, which keeps our books. Microsoft Office, we have 2 licenses, and each license supports a number of computers. Well, the Woodchucks kind of made a deal with us on the side years ago, where they get one of the computer stations that they use down in the Mill Grove, and they pay us the $50 to cover that cost. So we're getting $50 from them and reducing our overall cost to about $150 for the Microsoft Office licenses. Zoom, we're going to acquire an annual license just in case we have to go back to Zoom meetings, whether it's a monthly meeting or classes. And we do have one instructor who's used to be a resident, moved out of state, but is willing to do Zoom classes in the future. So we're going to need a license one way or the other. Oh, and that $150 is the pre-discount. You know, everybody discounts. Well, they have coupons, so we can maybe get it for $130. A SIG is a special interest group. And our 2 groups are Apple and photography. The Apple group they don't think they need the money, but we put it in just to kind of cover it. The photography group has photos, prints in the lab, and they get them done at a professional lab. They get them printed at a professional lab, and it's going to run about $310 for the year. There's 16 of them, and they update them regularly, and it costs money. Additional tools for use in and around the lab, $100 as a placekeeper. And our total expenses, as we're projecting, at $51.75. And remember, our cash on hand for capital expense now is over $9 grand. So you can see we've got our expenses covered with a cushion going forward. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we approve the budget that is presented.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Second. In favor? Thank you very much.
222.
I like slides where not to talk. Classes. Remember, as opposed to the classes you see in lifestyles that charge money for, computer club classes are free for all members. I get emails all the time, how do I sign up for the class? No registration, just show up. Bring your passwords if we're going to be doing a hands-on class. I do an iPhone class, and it's hands-on, follow along, get to know your product, get to know how to use your phone. So you need your passwords often. And now with the new mandate, masks are required. Ralph? Ralph, our Director of Education. Yeah, that's what. Oh. Well, don't go away. Yeah, they are.
I got an appointment for eyes check, so I didn't notice that yet. All right. Well, finally, we're having some classes. You know, this month we got 5 scheduled. We're doing pretty well. 2 of them have already been passed, and we had decent attendance. So hopefully you'll look at this and try to schedule coming to the classes, because there's always something to learn, and I hear this from the instructors all the time. I didn't even learn something teaching the class, you know, because nobody knows everything, right, Bill? Especially me. But you can always learn something, you know, if you got the time, and think about coming to the classes. And you can see what we're going to have. But we're working on some classes for the future, particularly Microsoft Word, maybe 1 or 2 or even 3 classes. Same thing with Excel. We're working on a class to show you all the equipment we have for transferring slides, DVD, or VHS to DVD, pictures. There's quite a bit of equipment in the lab that many of you have not even used. And so we'll have another class on that, explaining how to use this equipment and what you can do with it. Also, we have been having 1 iPhone class a month, and we're going to continue that, I'm pretty sure, right, David? Okay, good. And Steve said he's planning on doing 2 Android classes a month. So phones are becoming the important thing, phones and tablets. And you learn something every time. I go there, and I'm not very smart, but I seem to learn something. I always can't figure out how to do it, but I learn what you can do. And then go back and then say, oh, Steve, you talked about such and such. How do I do that again? And he's really good at helping the individual. As a matter of fact, he even met a person that really needed a lot of help in the lab, and spent over an hour with them one-on-one. So sometimes that can be done too if you really need some additional help on something that's really important for you to get done with your phones. We're always looking for more teachers, or should I say instructors or helpers, or somebody to just take and give us some of your knowledge, because like I said, not everybody knows everything. If you're interested in trying to teach a class, we'll help you. Get a hold of David or myself, or anybody, even any of the techs in the lab, and we'll get to you, because we do need to get additional people to do classes, and there's a lot of new subject coming out that we'd like to train, but we don't really have enough people that are expertise in some of the new specialty items. So keep it in mind. It's pretty easy. We can do it by Zoom, or we can do it in person. So just think about that. And like I say, we do need to have additional people. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Last month, as a matter of fact, I had that same question. We ended up with Steve Ferry over here is considering doing the recording. So think about it. There's a lot of things you can do. You know, we're all volunteers, and we do need your help.
Thank you, Ralph. You're doing a good job. As you said, we always need more instructors, and always need more tech assistants in the lab. Here's an important thing. Recently, Neighborhood Watch distributed an email about a local dispatch number for emergencies. Well, it turns out that number goes to the local dispatch center up in Crystal Lake. But the number they had was an 815 number. Is a non-emergency number. Do not use it because they will put you on hold if they have an emergency call to answer. Huntley Police has sent out a correction as they get their emails from Neighborhood Watch. And they reminded everyone that if you need first responders, the only number to call is 911. So ignore the email that came out from Neighborhood Watch less than a week ago, talking about an 815 number that was now the better number to call for first responders. Delete it, don't use it, continue with 911. And that works whether you're calling from a landline at home or your cell phone, because the software at the 911 center will identify basically where you are when the call comes in, okay? Just keep that all in mind. Otherwise, the Sun City Board meets on the 22nd. They meet in Birch at the other end of the building. It'll be live and will be streamed on YouTube. The lifelong learning lectures have resumed. Those are some of them. They're doing a Chicago's northwest side. The Muirhead Farmhouse, which was a Frank Lloyd Wright design, discussion on Medal of Honor, and the tri-state tornado that came through the area in 1925. Other community matters, I like the first one, National Bird and Heritage Month. Yeah, I think we all should investigate and explore the health benefits of birding. National Yoga Month, Honey Month, and Guide Dog Month. And for those of you, if you already haven't auditioned, it's too late for the Sun City's Got Talent, which will be in here on the 30th. Our featured presentation. Well, you know, there are two types of computer users in the world. And I'm not talking Mac versus PC. I'm talking those that have backed up their computer and those that wish they had. And to speak to that, as I put here, saving to the cloud, I know Bill has a slightly different title for it, but we have Bill Zaletti on the cloud and using it. Bill?
Good morning, everyone. So I think this was about 7, 8 years ago. One morning I got up and I turned my computer on at home and it wouldn't boot up. And I went, oh, that's interesting. That was a time when I had a desktop computer and I was fairly paranoid about keeping files safe, so I put 3 hard drives in it. And one to boot the computer, one to store the files, and one to back up the files. So I unplugged my computer, took it up to the lab. Some of you probably remember Cliff. He worked on it with me, and we finally got the computer booted back up, and we checked to see if all of my files were intact. And finally, we found all of my files, and I was happy, and I went home. And I got to thinking, you know, this is really an archaic way of doing this when we have the opportunity to use the cloud. Well, that afternoon, I spent all afternoon putting a cloud backup system in my house, and I'm not sorry for it. Excuse me. When I moved to a new computer recently, 5 years ago, all I had to do was to log into the cloud, and all the files that I had backed up came streaming down to my computer. So it's such an easy way to do this. And an easy way to make sure that everything that you have is secure. So what is the cloud? That's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Why is cloud computing important? I think I already mentioned that. What are the types of cloud computing? Is the cloud secure? And future of the cloud. So the cloud is just it's a network of servers that exist literally all over the world. Most of what we back up here in the United States is backed up in the United States, but they could actually use outside of the United States for security for them, because when you back up something to the cloud, it's double backed up. It's backed up at that location, wherever that location is. And I believe we're going to talk about Google in a little bit. I believe they back up in Kansas City for us in this local area, but they also have a backup to their backup, which is somewhere else in the country or perhaps outside of the country. It's a good way to store your files. They use developmental tools, and applications are enabled through the internet. Why is cloud computing important? Well, if you use email today, you're already using cloud backup. You may or may not know that. How many of you knew that? Okay, that's interesting. Not many of you knew that when you're using email today, you actually have a cloud backup of that email, especially if you go online to do your emails, as opposed to bringing it down to some sort of application into your computer. Social media is in the cloud. Whenever you go to Facebook or Instagram or any of those, they're already in the cloud. And all you're doing is looking at a cloud, looking at the information that you've gone after in the cloud. When you're looking up information, you're in the cloud. When you go to Google or Bing or any of the other Yahoo or any of the other services you may use to find information, you're in the cloud. Banking, if you do banking online, you're in the cloud. When you're backing up files, you're in the cloud. And there's a lot more. So what type of clouds are there? There's public cloud and there's private clouds. For public clouds, we have Microsoft, iCloud, Google, Amazon. There's a lot more. I'm just using those as an example. For the private cloud, you have banking, online pharmacy, and medical records. Those are three that I use, so I'm sure that there are a lot more. But at least those three, if you're using any one of those or all of those, they're private clouds. So they're only accessed by you, and while you're using them, they're secure for your use. Is the cloud secure? So people who work with the cloud all day tell you that data stored on the cloud is probably more secure than on your hard drive, because of the security that the three that I'm going to talk about today, iCloud, Google, and Microsoft, have very secure cloud systems that are probably more secure than you are when you log into the computer in the morning or turn your computer on and you go out to Google. It's probably more secure than your access to Google. How do you protect yourself from the cloud? Choose a secure password. That is extremely important. You can't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, with most clouds won't let you do that anymore. They'll force you into a number, using capital letters, and more than likely some sort of character, such as an @ symbol or a slash or something like that. Use that secure password. Only access your data when you're on a secure site. So I don't recommend, and most of us in the club don't recommend, that when you're in McDonald's or Panera Bread or one of these open sites that you use, that you go in to do your banking. It's okay if you want to go in and do a Google search from there, but I would suggest that you not do anything that's normally private in one of those open sites. Future of the cloud. We're now at a crucial point, and it looks like the clouds are going to just continue to grow. As we see them today, I'm going to talk about 3 of them. You will find more and more cloud storage out there, more and more access to clouds. So that's something that you want to consider. I found this on the internet. What are the best clouds out there? Google Drive, iCloud, OneDrive, Amazon, iDrive, Dropbox, PC Cloud, Sync.com, IceDrive, Mega, MediaFire, and Dago. And I just brought up this information from what I just gave you that shows you that some of the clouds are available to you free for, I think, up to the largest was 100. Dago gives you 100 gigabytes free. Most of them give you between 5 and 10 gigabytes free. And then after that, you have to start paying for your cloud storage. I see phones going up, so I'll hold it a second. Okay. OneDrive is Microsoft's cloud storage. That is my primary store. Actually, I use all three, and I'm going to show you. I use all three, Microsoft, Google, and iCloud. Microsoft gives you 5 gigabytes, so anybody in here that has a Microsoft account on Windows 10 automatically has 5 gigabytes free. If you have a subscription to Office 365, or I think it's called Microsoft 365 now, then you automatically get 1 terabyte for every computer that you set up with them. I have a subscription to Microsoft 365. I have a terabyte for myself. I have my wife on my account for an additional terabyte, and I have my granddaughter for additional terabyte. And I have 3 open accounts that I can use with my subscription. Additional storage, if you don't have that 365, is $2 a month for up to 200 gigabytes and $10 a month for up to 1 terabyte. So that is if you don't go with the subscription. Non-Windows users have 5 gigabytes with a Microsoft account. So if you are an Apple user, Mr. David, you have access to 5 gigabytes with a Microsoft account. So OneDrive syncs data between computers, phones, and tablets. And that's something that I do on a regular basis. So I'll show you in a little bit how that works with the computer. It syncs automatically. It syncs my files, all of my files. And also, when I do that sync, I have access to that information on my phone and on my tablet. So if you have a Microsoft account, that's an email address with Outlook.com, Hotmail.com, Live.com, you have that Microsoft account, you can sign up and use the Microsoft Cloud. Here's an example. So this is an online, this is Microsoft's OneDrive online of my files that I have in there. And you can see I have a way of setting my folders up. This is my own file system. I used to teach file management in the club, and I tell people, you need to set up your own file system. You need to know where you put your files. You need to do something that's logical for you. This happens to be the way that I store my information. And this is a picture on the left-hand side. This is what OneDrive looks like on your computer. So that is, if you have a Windows computer and it's Windows 10, you automatically have OneDrive on your computer. Again, this is my array and the way that I've set my files up. It comes standard with documents and photos, and then you can add more folders, as you can see that I've put in here, however you want to organize your data. On the right-hand side, you can see I have, I believe it's 30-some gigabytes worth of data stored out there with over 3,000 folders. Does that sound right? Does everybody see that? I can't see that from here. Something close to that. So 30-some thousand files I have stored, files and pictures. I wouldn't want to lose those, that's for sure. iCloud is Apple's cloud storage. So I have an iPhone and I have a tablet, Apple tablet. And so I automatically back up my iPhone to the cloud. I back up the iPad to the cloud, and if you have a Mac computer, that automatically backs up to the cloud. And it syncs those devices back and forth in the cloud. You select what you want to put in the cloud: photos, contacts, calendars, reminders, notes, messages. And this is a picture of what my cloud looks like, what I have setting up there. And I do not back up my photos to this cloud because I choose to only use the 5 gigabytes that they give me. So when I change and I back up my photos to OneDrive off of my iPhone, that's my own choice to do that because I have a terabyte in one place and 5 gigabytes in another. But I do back up all the other information. So when I get a new phone or a new tablet, all I have to do is sign into the Apple Cloud. And when I do, all that information streams down to my phone or to my tablet. With the phone and a tablet, if I do something on my phone, when I turn my tablet on and it goes to the cloud and looks, it automatically brings that information into my tablet. So it's automatically synced between those two devices. This is a picture on my phone. I took a picture of my phone. You can see I have photos turned off but I have contacts, calendar, reminders, notes, and news automatically turned on. So that's what's backing up in the iCloud for me. iCloud storage automatically gives you 5 gigabytes, 50 gigabytes for 99 cents a month, 200 gigabytes for $2.99. I'm going to go to 299,000. And you got my brain going in the wrong direction this morning. And 2 gigabytes for $9.99 a month. If you have a family plan, I have a family plan with my son. So I have a son, a daughter-in-law, and 2 granddaughters that have iPhones, and my wife and myself. And my son bought for all of us 200 gigabytes for $2.99 a month, and he shares that. There's a way you can share a family. So if you have a family situation like that, you can do this. You can pay the $2.99 a month and share it with them, and you're limited to 200 gigabytes. That's a lot of storage. My wife takes a lot of that up, however, in our family plan, because she likes to take a lot of pictures of the granddaughters. And I show her from time to time how those duplicates can be erased. So Google Cloud. Google is, as you know, in the lab for a long time. We were talking to you about storing your pictures in Google Cloud, in the Google Drive. They have gone away from free unlimited pictures now to, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes about the price. But Google Cloud consists of a set of computers, hard disk drives, virtual resources. They're stored by regions. I mentioned to you earlier about the fact that I believe it's in Kansas City is our region. And then there's a redundancy of their backup somewhere else in the country and or the world, because Google is all over the world. Example of Google Drive. This is an example. I have 2 Google Drives. I have 2 different email addresses with Google. And this is my primary drive. As you can see, my Gmail is at almost 8 gigabytes that I'm using in email. I have less than 0.08 gigabytes of photos up there. And my Google Drive, where I store documents or have stored documents in the past, is very small. I have 15 gigabytes is the maximum that I have because I don't pay for it, and I've used almost 9 gigabytes of that storage. One thing that I have to do, I'm kind of a hog when it comes to email. I constantly store things in folders, and at the end of the year, I have a routine close to January 1st where I'll sit down and go through my folders and erase everything from the prior year. That'll get that down to a lot lower number. Ways to use Google Backup. Back up your phone, sync media to Google Photos, store files in Google Drive, and share attachments in Gmail. With the Google Drive, store files in Google Drive, did we get the Google Docs plans going yet?
Yesterday, yeah, 20 people there for that.
Yesterday for Google Docs. I have to confess that I'm a Microsoft Word user. Our church uses Google Docs, and I struggle with using Google Docs online. So what I usually do when they send me something on Google Docs, I just copy it off and put it in Microsoft Word and store it that way, because I'm not good with interacting with them. I could have gone to that. I needed to go to that class yesterday, but I decided to get a new driver's license instead. So this is what Google gives you: 15 gigabytes free, 100 gigabytes. They charge you a little bit more for it. 200 gigabytes, a little bit more for that, and you can go up to a premium version with 2 terabytes. If you've got 2 terabytes worth of stuff to store, I highly recommend you find some place to store it, because that's a lot. As you can see, I have, now I'm not, my friend John over here, would even have 60,000 photos or something like that? 175,000 photos. And you back those up to OneDrive, right?
Yeah.
And how much space are you using with all those?
It's about 150 gigabytes.
So about 150 gigabytes. So that goes to show you how much space a terabyte, how much a terabyte will hold. I think I have less than 20,000 photos, and you can see I only have 32 gigabytes here. So that's a lot of storage. So Google with the 15 gigabytes free may limit you if you're doing a lot of storage with your photos, but 100 gigabytes for, how much is it? I can't read it from here. $2 I think a month or less than that. is a really reasonable way to store your files. So if you want to use the cloud, you need to decide which cloud backup you want to use, determine how much data that you need to back up, files, photos, movies, music. I do back up music, by the way. I have all of my music. I think I have over 1,000 songs right now. They're backed up to the cloud. They're on my iPhone and on my tablet. So I have multiple ways to access them if I want to use them. Then find a plan that best suits your needs. I kept it down very cool this morning, 15 minutes, how about that? Questions? Questions? Right here. Okay, we got questions. Yep. Got microphones coming to you.
There's so many different types of cloud backup. How do you determine which one or ones are best for each individual?
Okay, so the question, I guess everybody can hear because we have a microphone, but what's the best cloud backup for you to use? And the answer is the one you're most comfortable with. I chose Microsoft only because I have that, built-in Microsoft OneDrive as my cloud storage for all of my files off of my computer. But I'm also a user of Apple phones, so I automatically have the iCloud. If you don't have any of those devices, then you would choose from the ones, I think you took a picture of the ones that I had put up here, which ones, you would just choose one of those. You can sync files with most of those. So when you turn your computer on in the morning, if you have it set up to sync, it will, if you're working on something, it'll automatically, when you save it, it'll automatically back up on the cloud for you. Just make sure that if you're doing that before you turn your computer off, it's completed the sync application. But that's something, if you have questions about that, want more advice, come into the lab, and one of us who use clouds, I think all of us that work in the lab use cloud backup and storage right now. Hold on a second. Yeah.
I just picked up this new phone yesterday. It's an Android. And I'm not familiar as to, I had difficulty when I went in on the contacts that I made a phone call, and then I didn't know how to get back to the main screen. Didn't know what to do to get back to the main screen.
After you went to your contacts on your new phone?
Yeah, when I called and I was done talking, and I was done talking, and I couldn't get back to the main line.
You should have on an Android phone a home button. Either it's a touch button or it could be a physical button, but you just touch that home button and it should bring you right back to your home screen. Yeah. You're talking to Shelley's an Android user, so he should show you where the home button is on there.
Okay, and then the other thing is somehow I got two icons that show your phone. I don't know how to do that. I got two of them on my screen somehow.
Okay. Those are fairly individual questions, and while I appreciate you asking those, that's a question that when Ralph was talking earlier about one-on-one support in the lab, you could come into the lab on Monday morning and there's somebody there that uses Android that would be able to help you with those individual questions. Sounds like you need some help in terms of how to navigate through your phone.
And Steve is going to have Android classes. Yeah, the 28th, we got an Android class.
Yeah, on the 28th, there's an Android class. So I would encourage you to do two things. One, come into the lab Monday morning because it's an immediate need. Get some of your immediate needs solved. And then two, go to that class on the 28th, is that correct?
2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock on the 28th. And they'll cover a broad range of topics. Question up here?
Yes. With the P Cloud that you mentioned in your presentation and the OneDrive, can they work together or they have to be separate?
Okay, can you work together between two different clouds? The answer is yes. You can save information over multiple clouds if you like. The question is, why would you want to do that? For me, The reason that I have that I use 3 different clouds is, so very specifically, the Google Cloud for me, and my Gmail account as an example, I don't back that up into OneDrive because it's already backed up into the Google Cloud. So when I get a new computer, and I will get a new computer sometime soon, I know I need one, because it's 5 years old. Remember I said that earlier, 5 years? That's the maximum life. I know I'm on borrowed time on that computer. That's for your information. So when you come into the computer, you say, my computer's 9 years old and it needs help, it needs a lot of help. Anyway, when I get a new computer, I use Outlook for my emails. So one of the first things I do when I get a new computer is sign into it, set up the security system on it, and then I start working with the cloud. So I go into Outlook, I set up my accounts in Outlook. It sits there and it takes quite a while for Outlook to pull all that information back down from the cloud. Then I log into OneDrive. So for me, and you saw the file sizes I have, for me to set up a new computer is about a 10-hour ordeal. But all I have to do is walk away from it, because all I have to do is sign into these different clouds and then let them do their thing, and they sit there and just sync and sync and sync and sync. When I get a new iPhone, 15 minutes. I'll say they're pretty fast. The iPhone's about 15 minutes, and the next thing you know, all of my applications, all of my data is streamed down to my iPhone.
Same with the tablet, same with the iPad.
Same with the tablet, yeah.
Bill, a quick question. Do you still use an internal hard drive on your computer to back up, even though you use the cloud storage?
I do not. Well, I went from a desktop with 3 hard drives in it to a laptop with a single hard drive. And I don't use it. I have an external drive at home, but I no longer use it. I used to back up to that, and then when I would go away, I would put it in the safe deposit box in case something happened in the house. But with the cloud, I don't need that anymore.
Solid state or otherwise?
I don't have a solid statement, but you can get a solid statement.
Is there any downside to having the automatic iCloud backup turned on and just leave that happen every day? Is there any downside to that?
I can't think of a downside to using it. I can think of many upsides, but not a downside. Yeah.
The only downside is if it exceeds its 5 gig.
Yes, that's right. The only downside is if you exceed your 5 gig. And it'll notify you that you've reached your capacity. Questions? Wow.
I have a comment. One comment is we're still looking for one person to update our signage in the computer lab, which requires somebody who would like to learn about making signage, presentations, and if there's someone that
Digital
has-
signage.
Huh?
Digital signage.
Digital signage.
Digital signage, yeah.
Right.
The signage on the computer lab is one computer is running over in the Prairie Lodge and one is over at O'Neill. So come up and see me after the meeting. Somebody who has a little experience on making graphics would be helpful.
Might want to mention Frank and all of that can be done remotely.
Who's saying something?
Yeah, he said all of the information, what Frank was just talking about, you don't have to come into the computer lab to do that. You can do that from your home. Once you've been trained to do it, we're really looking for someone who has a multimedia background experience that could do this. So.
And we have screens in both lodges.
Yeah, and we have screens in both lodges. So for cloud backup, I'm going to go back to cloud backup. So for cloud backup, my presentation this morning was intended to whet your appetite. That's all it was intended to do. This is not a training class. If you want to know more about how to use the cloud, then come into the lab, and any one of the techs in there can sit down and talk to you about what you're doing and how you might want to use that, etc. And if you have any questions about which one of them you want to use, that information is also available in the lab. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I have an unusual announcement that I just became aware of. And this morning, as you may or may not have known, there was a drive-through on Thursday mornings down at the Fountain View Center. Have you ever done that? Have you ever sat in a line and gotten your little baggie of goodies? Well, today, one of the things that were being given away was Meal Village, MREs, I guess I'll call them, and Teresa is holding one up in the back. They had a lot of meals left over, so they're asking anyone in this group, on your way out, you can obtain meals as needed on the way out. What did you say, Teresa? Oh, both doors. They've got it set up at both doors, so you can't escape.
Well, thank you all for coming this morning. I have one question. Show of hands. How many of you access and use the Sun City website? Wow, terrific. We were thinking about maybe having that as a topic for a future general meeting presentation, but there's probably more folks out here that could give it than we have back here. Thank you all. We'll see you next month.